Time, mark. Oh, there is. Welcome everyone to the Veterans Day observance here that honors all veterans. Just a brief history. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, they declared an armistice to end World War I. This was called Armistice Day in honor of World War I veterans. And it stayed that way until President Eisenhower changed the designation to Veterans Day to honor all veterans, and he did this in 1954. Veterans, this is your day. Good morning. And welcome to your Veterans Day celebration. I was asking how long we have participated in this activity with you. I think it's been since the conception or the inception of our color guard. We have been with you on this day that recognizes veterans of all services. And I'll tell you, it's one of the programs that myself and our team look forward to every year, spending this time with you. It's a great time and thoroughly enjoyed by all, and the recognition is of your veterans, or you veterans, is greatly deserved. May the stars of the skies wave forever. The home of the brave, where there's never a boast or bread. But you know the brave can speak or not. Keep your eye on the grand old flag. You see the grand old flag.
I'm Bob Benson. Most of you know who I am, but those who don't, I'm still Bob Benson. Guests and visitors, thank you for being here. We are thrilled that you are here. Do you realize that this is the first large resident meeting we've had since February 13th of 2020? That was 21 months ago, better known as 91 weeks. And 636 long days. Woo. You know, it's fitting that today we should have this gathering to honor veterans, because in your service and that of your families as veterans, your experience was one of separation, oftentimes anxiety, uncertainty, isolation, sort of like a recent pandemic. You know, by your lesson, you taught us perseverance, and you're still teaching us perseverance in challenging and difficult times. We have once again drawn on the lessons that you are teaching us, and thank you. It's fitting that our first meeting together should honor you. Welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Please feel free to sing along with me if you want. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous flight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Almighty God, that we have gathered together on this occasion is first a reminder of the broken world in which we live. You know far better than we the measure of that brokenness as you sent your own Son into hostile territory to share good news to the disenfranchised, to proclaim freedom to those in captivity, and to set at liberty those who are oppressed. Today, O Lord, we give you thanks for the men and women honored today, within whom you have endowed courage and conviction and character. For their service and their sacrifice, we are grateful. That we might enjoy the lives we have today, many of these sacrificed the prime of their youth. Some paid the price of compromised health. Others, Lord, carry within the recesses of their minds memories they rarely, if ever, allow to rise to the surface. Thank you for their selflessness. While we honor them today, we acknowledge that they are already men and women of honor, and our world and our community are the better for having them as a part of it. We offer to you also our memories of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service, and for those who have served but who have now gone on before us. And for those currently serving around the globe today, we pray for their physical and emotional well-being, Lord. Watch over them, that those serving today might return home safely to be the veterans of tomorrow. Dear Father, we pray too for the spouses of our warriors, whether living or dead, serving currently or past. For loving those dedicated to the protection of our nation, they have at times been called upon to shoulder an extraordinary load of responsibility, often working, managing the household, perhaps raising children alone, at least for a season of life. It's not an easy thing to be apart from the one you cherish most in the world, and harder still when that one may be in harm's way. So bless these spouses, these widows, Lord, for the sacrifices unique to the lives that they have led. And now as we gather today, we renew our appreciation for the liberties that are ours and honor those who helped to secure those freedoms. In the pledge that we offered up just a moment ago, we thought of our flag, our republic, our nation, and then we uttered those two little words, under God. May our highest allegiance always be to you, the Most High God. Bless now our time together. Make your presence known to every heart, both now and forever.
As you fight for the right and to build the nation's right, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, the army will swing. God of the days, sun and strong. 2, 3, 4, wherever we go, you always know that the army goes rolling along. From the walls of Montezuma,
read the names of those veterans who have left us and passed away during the past years. In the American Legion, we call it gone on to post-everlasting. These are friends and neighbors that you knew. They may be family, but you've known them through here. You've eaten with them, you've talked with them, you've conversed with them. First one is Richard Powers, Buck Gay, Dean Wilson, Romaine Alexander, David Guthrie, Charles Barkley, George Obolensky, Nolan Brunson, Dana Sullivan, Clarence Coburn, Robert Hall Jr., Alvin Hotz Jr., Thomas Pavlovich, David Weiland, Newt Stahl Jr., Alvin Chin, Bill Harvey, Robert Gamitter, Alexander Finley III, John Downey, Peter Spirizzi, hope I pronounced that correctly, and Colonel Bessinger Jr. These are the folks that have left us during the past year.
Good morning. We have one slight change. Greg Bethold, who is going to be speaking today, a veteran of Afghanistan, has become sick, and he has a fever, and he just was unable to attend. But we do have another speaker, which his name is Chaplain Ted Ham. Ted Ham grew up in South Carolina and attended Clemson University. He worked in human resources after college for 10 years and spent time around in Munich and Germany. Ted saw the light, saw the vision, if I would, and he then went to the theological seminary and pastored at Cornerstone Church at Lakewood Ranch in Sarasota, Florida. After 6 years in the ministry, Ted joined the Army Chaplain Corps and spent 8 years in the U.S. Army. He spent 4 years at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 4 years at Fort Meade, Maryland. He is married and has 4 children, and he graciously has come this very short moment, and I told him he has to speak until Lindsay shows up, so we'll see how long he talks. Without further ado.
Hey, thank you so much, Dick. It's a delight. It really is. It's an honor to be here with you all. Just share a few words from me and my life, and an inspiring story as well, I hope. I am retired Army chaplain. Just 2 months ago, I left the Army and came to join Upstate Warrior Solution. Hopefully some of you are familiar with that organization, which I'm learning now, just myself being on board, that it's really the premier organization that serves veterans in the Upstate. There's a lot of love and appreciation for the sacrifices of so many in this room. It's not always been the case. Too many of you know that all too well, personally. Talked with a veteran yesterday who had been wounded in Vietnam, came back and had been spit on upon return, and had very difficult physical recovery from wounds. Recently went in the hospital though for eye surgery, and one of the attending nurses told the staff, "Hey, we're about to operate on a veteran," and the entire staff came over to say thank you, and one of them prayed for this veteran, and this vet said, "You know, I've carried that anger around for decades. But at that moment, it all just kind of washed away. It was very healing and very restorative." We had wonderful experiences overseas. I did see the light. I did have a sense of call to ministry in Germany. And I came home one day and I told my wife I lost my interest in my day job. And I think I needed to do something else and go to seminary. So I went back to Charlotte, North Carolina for 3 years, and then while I was at Charlotte, a Army chaplain recruiter came to our school, our divinity school, and offered to buy lunch for students who wanted to hear about Army chaplaincy. And of course, a lot of students wanted a free lunch, and so I went to hear these stories, and it really was compelling. The kind of experience in the ministry, in the military, the kind of ministry, the diversity of experiences in the office, counseling, out in the woods, giving a message out in the woods, and I was excited about it. I came home and told my wife about it, and she said, "No way." Those were her words. And then, so I told the recruiter, "No, thank you. I don't want to do something like that." Our kids are grown up a little bit more independent, and my wife had a change of heart, and so joined the Army 8 years ago as a chaplain, and it was a surreal experience to go to Fort Jackson in basic training. My classmates laughed at me. They said, "Ted, everything just kind of works out for you. You get all the breaks." We were in formation one day for an inspection of our equipment, and I was on the back row. I was in the back rank, and the drill sergeant yelled at somebody on the front rank for missing a piece of equipment that they had been told 3 times to make sure you had, and lo and behold, I was missing that piece of equipment too. So in the chaos of the inspection of equipment, I snuck out, I ran back to my barracks, got my equipment, came back, snuck back into the back rank right before the drill sergeant got to the back rank, and he got to me and he nodded and he leaned in right to my face. I thought, "I know I'm in trouble." He said, "Chaplain Ham, why are you always so spiritual?" I do want to share an exciting story, an inspiring story, I hope, about a chaplain who served in the Korean War. Chaplain Emil Kapam. He was one of seven U.S. chaplains who were the recipients of the highest honor medal in our land. He was a simple man from Kansas, son of a farmer. Chaplain Kapam, in 1950, he found himself in Korea, almost surrounded with his battalion by Chinese soldiers. He was encouraged by his leadership to escape before it was too late, before they completely encircled them. Chaplains are non-combatants without weapons, and together with a medic, they voluntarily stayed behind to care for the soldiers, knowing what kinds of experiences awaited. The Medal of Honor citation reads in part that during this last battle, Kapam moved fearlessly from foxhole to foxhole under direct enemy fire in order to provide comfort and reassurance to the outnumbered soldiers. He repeatedly exposed himself to enemy fire to recover wounded men, dragging them to safety. When he couldn't drag them, he dug shallow trenches to shield them from enemy fire. Soon, as expected, they were captured and became prisoners of war. While awaiting their fate, Chaplain Kapam saw a Chinese soldier about to bayonet a wounded American. He ran up and pushed him out of the way. And the Chinese soldier was so shocked that he turned around and left them alone and allowed them to live. His citation continues. During the march, Chaplain Kapam led by example in caring for injured soldiers, refusing to take a break from carrying the stretchers of wounded while encouraging others to do their part. One of the eyewitnesses who survived said that the officers at times commanded soldiers to help take their turn as stretcher bearers. They were so exhausted they refused the commands. But when Chaplain Kapam asked them to join in, they would help and follow his order because of the immense respect that they had for him. Once in the prison camp, Chaplain Kapam served his fellow soldiers in any way he could. He gave away and shared his own food. He stole medicine from the enemy and gave it to his medic to administer. He dug latrines. He bathed the sick who were too weak to take care of themselves, and he volunteered for burial duty. He snuck around to different huts at night to encourage and pray for soldiers, and he even prayed for their enemies. An example of civility and compassion, love of neighbor, our culture today would do well to emulate. But one day, Chaplain Capon became ill from pneumonia and dysentery and a blood clot. The North Koreans saw their chance to take him away to what they called the hospital, which the American soldiers called the death house, because it was a place few returned from. It was a place to go and await the inevitable. His brothers, his comrades knew that they were going to lose him, and they grieved. I love the story of Chaplain Capon for several reasons. I love it because it's a reminder of the sacrifice so many have made for their country. What you veterans have done for your country may not be as noticed. It may not be in the newspaper, but your sacrifices are every bit as important, many of which will never be noticed by others, but you carry in your heart. I love this story as well because it's a challenge to future generations, especially today with much anger and hatred in the atmosphere. Here's an example of sacrifice, of service, generosity, forgiveness of others, courage to stand up to power, and even love of enemy. And I love the story of Chaplain Capon because of the hopeful, joyful anticipation of the future. Though many of his battle buddies protested at his being taken away to the death house, Chaplain Capon said, "It's okay. I'm going where I always wanted to go." So today I salute the veterans present, your families and loved ones, your love of country, your sacrifice, your courage to run toward the sound of the guns. Freedom is never free, and our country owes you a debt it can never repay. Thank you.
You all may have noticed that while we were speaking, the gentleman to my right just kind of slipped right in, just in time. Not too late. I'm sure that everyone in this room knows who Senator Lindsay Graham is. I served in the 9th Infantry Division in Vietnam and the Army Reserves afterwards. All veterans, all, have a special place in my heart. Therefore, it is my distinct honor to introduce one of our brothers, Senator Lindsay Graham.
Good morning. Good morning. I was on Fox News and I'm here. So following Chaplain Capon is a tough act for a politician and a lawyer. I'm on the other end of the food chain. When you think of the chaplain's life and a politician lawyer, you've heard just about the bookends of mankind here. What a heck of a story. You know, I've heard of it, but I didn't know about it that much in detail. So thanks for having me. It's the first time I've been here. All of y'all live here? Yeah. Is there an open space? Tell you what, where I live right now, there ain't no green rolling anything. So thanks, Dick, for a very good introduction. It's the perfect one. This is Veterans Day. How many of you served in the audience there? God bless you all. The history of the day is at the end of World War I, the 11th hour and the 11th day of the 11th month, that was a heck of a war. A lot of people met modern warfare with old tactics and died needless deaths. World War I was a slaughter because the generals in charge were using the tactics from the 1870s and 80s, having people run into the machine guns, and that didn't end well, right? As much as the press can be a handful, one of the reasons so many died in that war is because it was pretty much covered up. The casualty reports were censored. There was really no news coming from the battlefield, and it was a lost generation in Europe. A lot of young men, particularly in Europe, an entire generation was lost. When you go to the major colleges in England, they'll just have row upon row of students who were called to the war and never came back. And I mention that because war needs to be talked about. The public needs to know the cost of it. The generals need to be held accountable, and we should honor those who fight it. Because if you want the war to be handled right, the public needs to know what it's about and the circumstances of which those are fighting it. The Cold War. How many of you served during the Cold War? Me too. From 84 to 88, I was in Germany. I was a judge advocate. I was a prosecutor. The thing I like about the military, it is a team. I think the only people probably wanted to kill me were my clients when I was a defense attorney. But the military legal system is important to maintaining good order and discipline. The people who cook the food are important to make sure we can win the war. Veterans Day is about those who served. Memorial Day is about those who died in service. Every day should be Memorial Day, right? But Veterans Day is unique. It's not about whether you were in combat or not, it's about whether or not you served. And those in the support arena make the mission possible. So being a support person, I understood what it took to get a military unit up and running, to go to a particular place on time, to get it fed, and to make sure that the place is run right. The thing I love most about the military is a team sport where everybody is on the same team. In the military, you have each other's back. In my business, we stab each other in the back. So I like being around military people. I like being around veterans because it takes you about 30 seconds to start telling stories about how great you were and how I single-handedly beat the Russians when I was in Germany. After active duty, I stayed in the reserves for about 33 years. I was in the Air Guard. I was in the Air Force Reserves. And it was a rewarding experience. That team element follows into the reserves. The Air National Guard has some of the most highly trained units in the country because they stay in the same unit their entire career. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan 57 times since 9/11, usually with Senator McCain. About 140 days on the ground as a reservist dealing with detainee operations. Bagram Air Base, which now is in control of the enemy, had a prison called Parwan Prison. In that prison, you had the worst of the worst. That's where I worked with my unit. Everybody in that prison is now out. That is not good for you. I've been to Afghanistan enough to know that the people in Afghanistan reject radical Islam. They just need our help to say no. So on this Veterans Day, those who served in Afghanistan are going to have a hard day tomorrow. They feel like our country acted in a dishonorable way, and they're right. What we did in Afghanistan was dishonorable. It was dangerous, and it will come back to haunt us. 60,000 Afghans have died fighting radical Islam in the last 5 years alone. American casualties were down to just a handful, God bless every fallen soldier, in the last couple of years. When we pulled the plug on Afghanistan, we left thousands of people behind who were there for us. In Task Force 435, my unit, dealing with detainee operations and rule of law programs, where you talk to the judges and the police chiefs and you'd get out and about in the jails. You'd mentor those people about how to run a rule of law nation. I spent a lot of time in the homes of these people. They're on the top of the Taliban's target list. Can you imagine what it must be like today to be a prison guard guarding these radical Islamists who are now out? They're going to meet a terrible fate. So tomorrow, a lot of Afghan veterans are going to feel sick to their stomach. Here's my message to each and every one of you. Hold your head up high. You served our nation honorably. During your time, America was safe. No attacks originated from Afghanistan in the last 20 years because of your service. You did everything that was asked of you. It was not your fault. as to the way forward. It will be long and it will be difficult. As we honor veterans who have served and are serving, I think what I can offer you today is a glimpse of the future. The future is what we want to make it. We can have the greatest nation on earth, or we can let it deteriorate. My goal as your senator is to make America worth dying for. A place where if you're called to duty, you volunteer because you know that you're fighting for a place that's special, that the American dream survives. I'm the first in my family to ever go to college. Neither one of my parents graduated high school. And I'm now in the Senate. That's unique to America. Every one of you has a story. Most of us came from very little, and we've been pretty blessed. I worry about future generations doing as well as we have done. I worry about their ability to create a job. I worry about the ability to people want to work because we pay them not to work. So we have many challenges ahead domestically at home. We have a mountain of debt that your children and grandchildren are going to have to pay off. We're losing our culture. Up is down and down is up. But I'm optimistic. This last election, there was a pushback. Republicans did well. But the message to me is not that everybody became a Republican, is that America doesn't want any party to go too far. We're not a socialist nation. We're a nation of giving you a hand up, not a hand out. We're a nation of taking care of you when you can't take care of yourself. We're a nation of people living big dreams. And that is why the veteran is so important. Because this only works if you're safe. And there are people out there that wish us ill. Do you believe me? We've been in the war on terror for 20 years. Has anybody told you who the enemy is and explained to you what winning looks like and what losing looks like? Politicians in my business for the last 20 years have been talking about getting out of there without telling you what happens. John McCain was one of my dearest friends. I learned a lot from Senator McCain. He spent years in a prison camp, could leave early but chose not to because it wasn't the right thing to do. But I have been on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan to understand a couple of things. You may be tired of fighting them, they're not tired of fighting you. Do we have any Presbyterians here? Woo! You are predestined to be here. Thank you for that. Do we have any Methodists? All right. Any Baptists? That's me. Methodist is a Baptist that you can read, so I can make Baptist jokes because I am one. But the point is, we laugh about our religious differences. This is a religious war. Do you understand that? They're not coming after your money. They're coming after your religion. I don't know what makes people believe what they believe. I don't know why Hitler wanted to kill all the Jews, but he did. And people kept ignoring the threat till it got out of control. Every war is about the bad people being let loose too long. I'm telling you right now today that we live in some of the most dangerous time in American history. How many of you believe if the radical Islamists, Al-Qaeda or ISIS, if they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it? I believe that. North Korea is sort of a mafia state. The Russians and the Chinese are bad guys, but they want to live. Any World War II veterans here? God bless you, the greatest generation. Thank you so much. How do you fight a kamikaze pilot? You kill them before they kill you. They don't mind dying. In their world, dying is first prize. So we're fighting an enemy that embraces the culture of death. How do we win that war? To offer people something worth living for. The average person with daughters and sons in the Mideast does not want to turn their family over to these bastards. We need to help them say no. The good news is, after having gone so many times, I can tell you that radical Islam in the form of ISIS and Al-Qaeda is a nightmare for the Islamic world, and they're willing to fight back. They just need our help. Thank you for being there when we needed you. And on your watch, you passed the baton to the next generation. To these gentlemen behind me, thank you for your service. To this facility, thank you for inviting me to speak and having a special event for very special people. I want to close with a word of warning. Things are not going well in Afghanistan. Our allies throughout the world are shaken. They don't know if they can rely on us after Afghanistan. The generals told the politicians, if you leave, it will fall apart. They were right. Afghanistan is hell on earth. Families are selling their daughters to put food on the table. The Taliban are evil. Al-Qaeda would like to kill everybody in this room because you refuse to bend a knee to their God. Their goal is to purify Islam, destroy Muslims who disagree, who have any sense of tolerance, and to conquer the Mideast and to project power against all of us in this room who are infidels. They intend to destroy the Jewish state if they can. This is not me making things up. I'm repeating what they say. 9/11 was 20 years ago. The only reason 3,000 of us died on 9/11 is they couldn't think of a better way to kill more of us. If Iran ever gets a nuclear weapon, that's a radical form of Shia. I worry about the future of the state of Israel. They're marching toward a nuclear weapon, and the world is sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing about it. Our friends in Israel do not have that luxury. If things don't change soon, you can see a conflict between Israel and Iran. One Holocaust for the Jewish people is enough. As I speak, Al-Qaeda and ISIS is growing in strength in Afghanistan and Africa. They're getting stronger, and they're trying to project force our way. When ISIS had Syria and Iraq in their clutches, over 2,000 people in 20 countries were killed, including people on our homeland. The good news is this radical form of Islam is not popular within the faith and will be rejected over time. The only question is how many of us will have to die until we reach that day. So to the American veteran, past, present, and future, God bless you. You're the best of us, and we need you now more than ever. The only thing between us and this evil force I've tried to describe to you is those in uniform. This war, the war on terror, has been fought by 1% of the American people for over 20 years. Many of you in Korea and World War II and Vietnam, you were drafted. The whole country went to war. Everybody at home did their part. This is the first war, maybe since Vietnam, but the first war where the American people are disconnected from the fight. Almost none of us have had to do much of anything other than watch TV and pay the taxes. So I'm here to tell you that as we celebrate Veterans Day in 2021, The need for a strong military is as great as any time in American history. The forces of evil are on the march. And let me tell you what their nightmare is. The American soldier. God bless you.
Day is done, gone the sun, from the hills, from the lake, from the skies, all is well, safely rest, God is nigh, thanks and praise for our days, neath the sun, neath the stars, neath the sky. As we go, this we know, God is nigh.
Order. Forward. One step forward. March. Right. Face. Forward. At trail arms. March. Left. Left.
May be seated. We've had quite a day. Excellent speakers, one of inspiration and one of a warning of what's coming around the bend for us, for our veterans, future veterans. Many of us have children who are in the service now, or grandchildren serving. God bless them. And thank you to Ted Ham and for Senator Graham for your speeches today. I'll tell you what, I'm a little spellbound because this has been quite a day. A day for our veterans here, and probably for everyone in their reach of their voices, it's a good day for them to hear such speakers as we had today.
May the stars and the skies wave forever. We honor the red, white, and blue, and the nation strong and true. Our land is the home of the brave. We will sing of our freedom together. Yes, this is the country we love. Oh, may the stars and all the stripes wave on forever.